we're not on?
Yeah, we really don't have to be on Zoom until 7:30 because we're really not going
Okay,
open session, other than what they're gonna record at the beginning.
thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, and welcome to the regular scheduled meeting of the Dayton Board of Selectmen, Wednesday, March 22, 2023 at 6:35 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting via Zoom and in person at Old Town Hall. Zoom meeting information. The meeting ID is 815-4456-3406. Passcode 287187. And phone call-in to log in is 1-646-931-3860. Public input may be provided using the following methods: by contacting the office of the Board of Selectmen prior to the meeting at boardofselectmen@dayton-ma.gov to provide input prior to the meeting. Also via Zoom call-in by the information listed above. Continued play of these meetings will take place on Dayton Channel 9 and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/Town of Dayton. This meeting is being recorded. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may, in fact, be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. At this time, I'd like to introduce the members of the Board of Selectmen. To my left is Mr. Ken Pacheco.
Present.
To my right, Mr. Peter Karen, and I am Leonard Hull. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Could everyone rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This evening, we will be going into executive session, and we are planning on returning at approximately 7:30 p.m. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, we may enter into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. The topic of discussion in the executive session will be the ADA coordinator's position. At this time, I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. All those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
An aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. Thank you. Good evening and welcome. At this time, I will entertain a motion to return to open session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
An aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. At this time, I would ask if we could rise for a moment of silence. We've had several people who have passed, unfortunately, since our last meeting. Since our last meeting, David Clark, 73, of Dayton, Massachusetts, passed away peacefully at his home on March 6, 2023. David is survived by his wife of 49 years, Diane, and his 3 children, Alyssa, Ryan, and Garrett. Also passing away, George Hart. George William Hart, 85, of Dayton, passed away on Saturday, March 4th, 2023, at his home. He was the husband of Carol H. Reinelt Hart, and they were married for 40 years. Also passing was Arthur Morton, the longtime chairman of the Cemetery Commission and town building agent. He passed away on March 10th. He served the town of Dayton in various capacities for over 46 years. And also Olivia Horton, age 87. She was a lifetime resident of Dayton, passed away on Friday, March 17th, surrounded by her family. She was the beloved wife of the late David P. Horton, with whom she enjoyed 53 years of marriage till his passing in 2024. Our thoughts and condolences go out to their family. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could comment on Arthur Morton, if
Sir.
you don't mind.
Most,
I met Arthur Morton when I was on the Cemetery Commission a few years back. He was the chairman of the Cemetery Committee. He's a clear example of someone who's volunteered for the town over 40 years and quietly, didn't ask for money, just volunteered for the town as a burial agent. He was a very decent man, highly smart. He was a carpenter by trade. He did work on the Dayton Historical Society. He was just a good man. And all the conversations I've had with him, I never once knew what his politics were. How great is that? You just have a conversation with a fellow human being. Don't talk politics. He was just a decent man, a decent husband, a decent father, and I will miss him. He was a good man.
thank you. Thank you very much. This evening, first on this agenda is Paul Pacheco, representing as one of the members of the Board of Health, to discuss a proposed restructuring of the Board of Health. Mr. Pacheco, could you come to the podium, please?
Hello, everyone. I'm speaking on behalf of the Board of Health Chair in her absence. The current operations have not been servicing the public as it should. What we are proposing will reduce downtime, satisfy the needs of the residents in a timely fashion. By reducing the health agent's hours, hiring an operations manager will allow us to streamline our day-to-day flow and services to our residents properly. This is our first step in a vision. We have restructuring the Board of Health. We have approved to move the department towards per diem inspections using consultants for plan reviews. This is being done to better meet the public's demand. We ask the Board of Selectmen for full support while we are improving the Health Department's ability to properly service the public. Thank you.
Mr. Pacheco, Mr. Ken Pacheco,
I was going to say, which Pacheco is this? Well, I am concerned about the hours being reduced for the health agent. How are we going to manage to deal with that? I understand some of his duties are being reduced, but still, he was already overwhelmed when he was a full-time town health agent.
Right, and being overwhelmed was mostly with the plan reviews and the inspections. So by reducing that, we feel that we'll be able to handle it.
I guess I'd be interested in hearing from the health agent if that's possible. Regarding the...
Just one second.
Yes.
Mr. Karen, are you, okay?
Who's going to do the?
No, Mr. Karen, are you okay with
Oh.
Mr. Pilling?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Pilling, could you come to the podium, please?
If you feel comfortable speaking on this, I don't know.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me to come up here. I'm still kind of trying to understand how it's all going to shake down and what it's going to be. I'm understanding that they're supposedly working on some kind of job description for what it's going to be, so I don't know what it's going to entail when all is said and done, what my role is going to be. So,
Mr. Pilling, thank you. It's good to hear from you. This is the first time that we've actually heard how you feel about, or where this is going.
You know, we've had a lot of meetings discussing this for a long time, and basically, I don't think anybody's ever asked me how I felt or where I stood on anything. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's important to keep a lot of this stuff in-house for public health. I mean, public health is public health. It's not a business. It's meant to be public health to serve the public. And I know I don't live up to that entire aspect of it because I'm an engineer by trade. I don't have a degree in public health. Dayton, I think, is lacking some of that. Obviously, we have a public health nurse who fills some of that gap. But as a department, we have grown significantly since 2017 when we separated. And we grew too fast and too much for what we could handle. So, yeah, I still think more hours are necessary to run it the way it needs to be done. But obviously, sending everything out is one way to accomplish that, I guess. But I don't know how it's going to work out. Some towns do it that way, but not really sure. But yes, it would be nice to have somebody in charge of the Board of Health who has a degree in public health so that they can advance the public health portion of the business, so to speak.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Mr. Karen?
Well, my questions were going to be, who is going to fulfill?
Mr. Pacheco, could you come back to the podium, please?
My question is, who is going to fulfill the hours that they're going to cut from the current health agent?
Well, we're gonna have to run interviews. And
No, what?
we're gonna have to advertise and run interviews and find somebody. We obviously haven't picked anybody yet at this point.
And what would you be advertising for and hiring for?
Just a general operations manager that can oversee day-to-day operations. It's not gonna be a full-time position. It's not somebody that has to be here every single day. I mean, they'll be here every day, but not a full schedule, just to handle some of the issues that come up.
I don't understand what you mean. Just an office worker or?
Well, just the whole department. You know, who's going out doing inspections, who's not doing inspections, who's gonna do plan reviews. We're still gonna use,
Isn't that what your secretary does right now?
she doesn't do any of the plan reviews or anything.
So you're gonna hire more than just somebody to do who's going out for inspections and where?
That's totally different. What we're gonna hire, that's per diem for anybody who's gonna go out and do the inspections. But somebody that can just handle the day-to-day operation to answer the questions such as Mr. Mullen does for you guys.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Go on. Any other questions?
Could I ask for some clarification on that? So you're gonna be hiring somebody to deal with the day-to-day concerns and questions, but you're talking about a 10-hour position, is that
Right.
correct? So how are they gonna be answering those questions if they're only working 10 hours a week?
Well, they don't have to be
Up to
there
10
every
hours.
minute of the day. There's not a problem every minute. But there'll be somebody around that if Todd or Elizabeth has a problem, it doesn't have to be brought to the board. Somebody can answer the question immediately.
So somebody with a degree?
Excuse me?
Somebody with a health degree?
We haven't made any determinations on the specs of the job yet. This is in the beginning stage.
Yeah.
You know, we've been working, our board has not been here that long, and I know we've been wanting to restructure, or you guys wanted it to be restructured for quite a while. When I first came aboard, then we lost one of the members. Then we got Patrick. And then we lost our secretary, our office manager. Then it took us a while. We've only had Elizabeth back here for full time for 2 weeks now. But we're already making progress.
In your discussions with Mr. Mullen, have you put placeholders in regarding the budget?
Yes.
Okay. So the budget will not be a stumbling block in developing a job description.
No, not at all. In fact, I view the budget as really as a logical next step to continue evaluating and assessing and really considering the proposal as part of our plan going into the next fiscal year.
Now, we've been talking about this over a year. So I'd like to have some deadlines, drop dead deadlines. Do you have a job description for the operations manager?
Not yet.
Okay.
Like I said, we're in the beginning stage of this. I understand that you've been wanting this for over a year. We're a brand-new board.
No, I recognize that. I was
And
gonna say-
we've gone over quite a few humps, and we're still making progress. And I know that you want to put a deadline on it, but I'd rather do it right the first time than do it wrong and have to do it over and over. Sometimes doing it right is better than rushing.
I understand this, but, and this is, please, let me, because some people take this as a criticism, it's not. The Board of Health has had many changes over the last year, both on the board and in the office. And as a result, it's been difficult, I recognize that. And please don't take this as a criticism, it's not. But the thing that I like about deadlines is, people know if they got a deadline, they work their tail off to get that done. You know, what I'm trying to find out is what is realistic. But please keep this in mind. There is an individual, he's sitting in this room, who potentially has had his hours cut from 35 to 25, who doesn't at this point in time have a job description. There's a human side to this. And that human side can best be represented if the board makes yeoman effort in resolving this as quickly as humanly possible. Keeping in mind, you don't want to rush through it and do it poorly. I get that. But
Right.
I think,
And I understand that this has been over a year, and the board's had a lot of changes. And we have not been together as a board for very long. We've had to go through the hurdles of finding somebody else to sit on the board. We've had to find another office manager. Those took interviews, those took a lot of time away, and we were still restructuring and making things better. And at this point, I don't want to comment or make any comments for the board. If you would like, we can put it on the agenda, we'll talk about it, and we can see if we can come up with a deadline for you.
which one would you be taking first, or you're not sure? If
that-
you'd like to come up. Sure, join him, if that's okay? Okay.
So Chairman Hall, I 100% agree with you. There needs to be a deadline set. At the last Board of Health meeting, I stressed vocally that I've looked over the past year, and I respectfully apologize to the Board of Selectmen, the amount of time that it's taken the Board of Health to get this done. Unfortunately, I'm not going to continue to repeat what's been said. There's been a lot of changes. There is a person whose job is cutting hours, is depending on this. If I can find a way in the budget, I would like to maybe not reduce those hours if we can. However, we know that money is tight and budgets have to happen. It was a placeholder that we put in consideration for expanding the Board of Health. My vision with the Board of Health and my feeling with the Board of Health is that there needs to be an operations manager. It doesn't need to be full-time, but there needs to be somebody that's held accountable for day-to-day operations. One of the things that I've noticed since I've been on the Board of Health is I've requested stuff from my department multiple times and gotten nothing for answers. And unfortunately, with the Board of Health only meeting once a month, we can't hold our department accountable for a monthly to monthly meeting, especially when residents are getting held up, construction's getting held up. This day and age with the financial market crashing one day and going up the next day and interest rates changing, by the time we leave this meeting, mortgage rates are probably going to be 2% higher. We have to have somebody who doesn't necessarily be in the office every single day, every single waking moment, but somebody whose responsibility it is to make sure that things get done on a day-to-day basis. And if there's an issue, there's a manager that they can go to. It's not the town administrator's responsibility to micromanage our department. It's our responsibility. This is the best way we could come up with it. It's not best way. It's the best way that we were able to find to come up with it. As far as a deadline, I am working on the job descriptions. I'd like to work. I have not worked on the supervisor one yet. I was just provided about a week ago with information for the health agent's job description, and I would like to start working on that. As far as a realistic deadline, I'd like to say we need this to go into the budget by July, so June would be town meeting if I'm correct, so would need to be presented prior to that. So I'm can't give you an exact deadline. However, I would like to say the May meeting, I would have something set and ready to roll so we can kind of post it and get it going.
Knowing that we're probably going to have another commission change.
Right, and that's a big concern of ours as well, because we literally, you know, I by the time I got my feet a little comfortable, and I'm far from it, I'm realizing things that have, you know, that have not been done over the past year. We talked about the Board of Health allowing a third-party service to do inspections. That was voted on by the Board of Health last spring. And that held up half of a meeting this year because we've had so many changes that people haven't been able to keep up. It's not fair to our residents. It's not fair to wow, it's late. I apologize to you guys. Lack of better words. It's not fair to you that have been questioning it for a while. You know, I took it personally that last meeting we had. I don't like it. I don't like not having results. We need to have results. We need to be accountable for our actions. We need to be accountable for our budget. I think this is the best way to see this through. And I think to your point, yeah, I've said since January, we need to get a job description. I didn't have anything to work off of until last week. Now that I have that, I'm going to be working on it. Because I do agree that not only are our residents at stake with their projects, but our employees are at stake with their livelihood.
What would be realistic for you, for the Board of Health to come before us again for an update? Mid-April, beginning of May?
Yeah, we could do something on the end of April. Does that work for you guys?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm not on the board. Okay.
No, you're part of this discussion.
And I wouldn't come if you're not here.
Mr. Karen?
Yeah, that works fine.
It works for me.
At least to have, you know, drafts to be finalized.
We'll
by then,
schedule
talk
you
about it.
for the second meeting in April.
Perfect.
Which I believe is the
20, yeah, around this.
okay, the 26th, okay.
Perfect.
I agree with Chairman Hull that this should be a deadline.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Real-
I
realistic
work with
deadline.
deadlines on a daily
Yeah.
basis, and there needs to be a deadline, or else it's gonna wait another year. I hate to say it. It's gonna get on a back
In
burner.
fairness to the people involved, we
Yeah,
can't do that.
100%.
Mr. Jacob? Pat, thank you very much. Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Veterans Agent Ray Haig and Colonel Robert Perry, who I might add as a former selectman, to discuss the presentation of the Medal of Honor.
Good evening, gentlemen and residents of the town. As you know, Dayton has the honor of being a Medal of Honor community. Private Frederick Anderson, a Civil War hero and one of the first recipients of the Medal of Honor, is buried here in Dayton. 2 years ago, one of his family members, Miss Cecil Miles of South Dakota, presented his medal to the town of Dayton. The medal is currently on display in a secure case in the police station. Tonight, we present 3 documents that will be added to the case. 2 of these documents describe the Battle of Globe Tavern and the key role Private Anderson played that allowed the Union Army to recapture a critical Confederate Army supply node. This was described as the action that turned the tide of battle in favor of the Union Army. The first document we have here is the wording of the citation that was part of the medal presentation, if I may. The President of the United States of America, in the name of Congress, takes pleasure in presenting the Medal of Honor to Private Frederick Charles Anderson, United States Army, for extraordinary heroism on 21 August 1864, while serving with Company A, 18th Massachusetts Infantry, in action at Weldon Railroad, Virginia, for the capture of the battle flag of the 27th South Carolina, Confederate States of America, and the color bearer. Before I read the second document, which are General Meade's comments, just to put things in perspective, it says here that Private Anderson captured the flag bearer. Well, we play a game called Steal the Flag. 160 years ago, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have instant communication. Communication on the battlefield between commanders or commanding generals and unit officers was simply done in one of two ways. It was either an individual took a message from the commanding general out to the various units, literally they called him a runner, or each unit had a flag. And when the commanding general would issue the orders, each one of those flag bearers would take the unit's flag and through a series of motions of the flag would tell that unit where to go, when to get there, and what to do when they arrived there. Okay? So they certainly didn't have the technology that we have today. And with that said, I'd like to read the second document here. And the second one captures the remarks made by General George Meade, commanding general of the Army of the Potomac, during the presentation of the medal. Those remarks describe Private Anderson's actions during that critical battle. To quote General Meade, "At the Battle of Globe Tavern, Private Anderson, in close combat, captured the flag and the flag bearer of the 27th South Carolina Infantry Regiment, effectively suspending their ability to communicate with the rest of the Confederate Army. This allowed the Union Army to turn the battle in their favor, retaking Weldon Road." I might also add that Private Anderson's actions in capturing the flag bearer took over 1,000 Confederate soldiers out of that battle. Okay. The third document is the Selectmen's resolution that addressed, accepting the medal, et cetera, and that will be on display in the case also. I'd like to thank once again and recognize Mr. Timothy Rhines, Mr. Robert Woods, and Mr. Donald Hershey for their tireless efforts in bringing this honor to Dayton. I would also like to thank Ms. Leanne Kerwin and Ms. Karen Brady for their support in actually creating these documents and putting it on the parchment. We had them professionally framed, but the parchment here and everything you see here was done by Leanne and Karen. And finally, for Mr. James Aguiar and Mr. Raymond Haig for their support of this project. And gentlemen, thank you for your time, and Ray is going to keep them in his office until we decide when and where we're going to do this. We're not going to make it a formal ceremony as we did with accepting the medal, but we're just going to finish off the case and that display.
Awesome.
So there it is.
Thank you.
Mr. Pacheco?
Nice job.
No, thank
Mr.
you.
Karen?
Thank you
Great
both
job.
for your service.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you for a
Thank
great
you.
job. And I will add, we have a lot to be proud of this town and the service of our soldiers from the French and Indian War to the present day.
Amazing history.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Home of the free because of the brave.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, Matthew Coster of Gay and Gay. Mr. Mullen, at this point,
Yes, sir.
I'll probably turn it over to you since it's in regards to retaining of a contract. I will read the letter into the record. This is in regards to retainer agreement for the town council services. Dear members of the Board of Selectmen, this office respectfully submits the enclosed retainer agreement for town council services for your review and consideration. We are very pleased to have provided legal services to the town of Dayton for many years. The intent of this agreement is to continue under the same arrangement that has applied in the past, with this office providing legal services to the town at an hourly rate of compensation. Our billing rates to the town last increased in 2008, and therefore the enclosed agreement provides for updated rates, which we respectfully submit remain fair and reasonable for the municipal legal services that we provide. We will be in attendance at the Board of Selectmen meeting at which this proposed agreement will be discussed in order to address any questions or concerns that you may have. We remain very honored to have the opportunity to provide legal services to the town of Dayton. Respectfully, Gay and Gay. David T. Gay, Esquire, Matthew J. Costa, also Esquire, and our principal legal counsel for the town of Dayton. Mr. Mullen, I've had the opportunity to look at this agreement. One question I do have. Gay and Gay goes back to the days of Peter Gay. How long has Gay and Gay represented this town? Certainly, certainly.
If David Gay was here, he would be able to answer that question. But it goes back at least to the 1960s, I believe, with Peter Gay,
Yes,
who represented the town all the way back in the original disputes over, for example, the well field and the Segregansett River. And those cases happened in the 1960s, I believe, and Peter Gay was involved in that. And also, I would like to note that David Gay, he wanted to attend the meeting tonight. He's in Florida. He was going to attend by Zoom, but he was under the weather, and he called me and he asked me to let you know that regretfully he wasn't able to attend the meeting tonight. So it's been many years, and as we state in the letter, we have been. It's really an honor to provide legal services to the town.
Mr. Mullen, do you have anything to?
I just really want to echo everything that really has been said. Like one of the values in actually having an updated engagement with Gay and Gay, like in a retainer agreement, is we, as Attorney Costa mentioned, we have had a very, very, very extremely fair rate. That hasn't changed since 2008, which is unheard of. This updated agreement does, bring an updated rate, really more towards a market rate, but actually, in my view, is still under market, which I do think really reflects, Attorney Costa and the firm's, commitment. And passion of representing the town. Just really speaking on my experience with Attorney Costa, and with Gay and Gay over the last 2 years that I've had the honor of working for the town. Honestly, I really can't say enough about, the working partnership that we have with Gay and Gay. And I view it as a partnership, because it is one. And Gay and Gay has always been in their legal guidance. They've been reliable. They've been thoughtful. And they've always done their due diligence. In interpreting, and analyzing the law, whatever the issue is. And so I strongly recommend this. And I just want to echo it. And it's really a pleasure to continue working with Attorney Costa, and Attorney Gay and the whole firm. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mullen, thank you. Mr. Pacheco?
I had an opportunity also to look at the agreement. I'm in full agreement with the agreement. If I could also comment on Attorney Gay's office, I'm familiar with Peter Gay from years and years, and when I worked in the courthouse, he had a great reputation, as well as Dave and Tom. So I think it's a good idea that we formalize this and come up and sign this agreement. Thank you.
Mr. Carey?
I agree. You guys have been part of our town for longer than I've been here, and I think it's a wonderful job that you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that being said, I will entertain a motion for the town of Dayton to enter into an agreement with the law firm of Gay and Gay for the period of 3 years from this date of commencement or until terminated as provided within the terms of said agreement.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Motion made and second. All those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
it's an aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. Mr. Costa?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, Mr. William Moore, Board of Assessors, regarding a tax exemption update. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good
How are
evening.
you? So I did not cancel because I thought I'd like to just give you a quick update on my findings. I did do research, as we discussed, talking about the asset limit that we currently have. What I discovered, quick history, is that we adopted Chapter 41C back in 1987. But we did not adopt Chapter 41D until 2001. So I got that information from Mark Pacheco. And so what I discovered what we have been doing is we've been applying the cost of living update to our income amounts, but we have not been applying the cost of living adjustment to the asset amounts as is required by Section 41D. So basically, we do not have the correct number right now for an asset limit. So speaking now on behalf of the Board of Assessors, who discussed this at length this morning, we have come to the unanimous decision that we are going to recommend leaving all policies as is. We're not going to put anything on the warrant. However, we have tasked the lead assessor, Stephanie, with going to find out, we have to calculate what this number is supposed to be, which means going back to, what was the number back in 2001, and then applying the appropriate cost of living adjustments to date. The reasoning for this is, it's a long story, but what we could do with the warrant would raise it to about $40,000 for single. But we believe that if we apply the cost of living, it's going to be closer to 45. So it's going to be more inclusive if we simply do the math correctly. We're not going to make a change for this year because it's too late. We've already gotten, people have known this other limit, so we're not going to change it now. But we are going to have it changed for the next year. So next year, the limits are going to be closer to, we believe, like 45 and 48, instead of what they are right now, which is 30 and 32.
Thank you. Mr. Pacheco?
I don't know if you want to know more details or
No.
see the sausage being made.
Do you think you'd have something like that ready for the special town meeting in November?
There's nothing we have to do. What we're saying is we're simply,
Get the figure, the accurate figure? Will you be
we're
able
going to have it done before the next time, before the next application process, which is January 1st
Okay,
or something
so
like that.
The special election we have a special town meeting we have in November, we can put a warrant article on.
We don't have to. That's what I'm saying.
don't have-
We don't have to because we have not followed what has been said at town meeting already. We're fixing we're not changing anything.
Okay, so that's actually shocking that we haven't followed it.
According to Ms. Schechter, she says that it's actually, a lot of towns around here don't adjust the asset, and they should. If you read the law, the 41D, it literally says, the income shall be adjusted. The assets shall be adjusted. There's no like wiggle room and saying, oh, you could pick and choose. It clearly says that it is supposed to be adjusted. So we're going to fix it. And so by fixing it, it's going to significantly increase the income, the asset limits for both single and married people. So my plan is that we leave things alone as it is. We let Stephanie fix the numbers. Next year, when this process goes through. But by the way, I did hear today we've had 2 new applications this year based on our outreach. Like I said, we had 32. We've got 2 more. We approved them this morning. We still got another week or so to go. So advertise, see what we can do. We've raised the asset. We're going to raise it for next year, which I believe is the #1 reason people are denied, is it's generally not because of their income, it's because of their assets. So we will see next year. So at this exact time, next year, we'll have a feeling for how many people are applying. And then we can tackle should we drop it from 70 to 65?
Oh, excellent.
And for clarification, the assets doesn't count the house, which
No,
people need to know.
no, the house, this is only, you're really only talking about bank account, 401k, that sort of thing. That's all we're talking about.
Well,
Has
thanks
to
for
be
looking
pretty
into
much,
this.
now, it will count if you have, a vacation home in Florida. That's not gonna count, or that will count towards your assets, but your primary home will not count.
Karen?
Great job,
Yes.
and thank her for the work that she's going to do to come up with that adjustment.
She was real happy with
Yeah,
me.
I'm sure she was.
She said she didn't have enough to do, so.
Mr. Moore, thank you for
So
doing the research on this and
you know,
bringing it to our attention.
And I'd like
Much
to also,
appreciated.
thank Mrs. Brenda Ferrera for bringing this to our attention to begin with. This is how this all started. She put this letter to you guys, and I picked up on it, and I was like, we need to fix this, and that's where it all started. So all of us working together works.
Thank you.
is
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
very much. Next on the agenda, Mr. Aguirre, Building Commissioner, in regards to the library building project. Mr. Aguirre, I do have a question when we begin.
Sure. Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You never stop.
We none of us do, right?
Thank you for all your efforts. Regarding the library building project, I believe we all have some questions, but I'd like you, if you could, to explain where we're at in regards to the progress of the library.
Sure, yes. I don't know if you've been by, but if you haven't, please take a ride by. The building looks amazing. The exterior renovations are about 90% complete. The contractor tells me they'll be complete in its entirety in about 2 weeks.
Wow.
There may be some painting that's left to do, but the entire exterior will have been re-sided with red cedar shingles, which was the right move. I'm glad that the numbers worked out in our favor and we're able to do that, because it definitely, it works with the building, and it's what belongs there. There will be, after the 2 weeks, there may be some touch-up painting that will need to be done, and that will be weather permitting. And then the two biggest things will be the front porch areas. All of the columns have been removed, and those have been put away, and we're gonna work through the library building committee, the historical commission, to come up with a plan to put those porches back to as close to original state as possible. So all that is going to be salvaged. In the meantime, we are working to come up with a reconfiguration of the accessible ramp. We're going to work in partnership with Bristol Plymouth, thanks to Chairman Hull and Mr. Dutra. The school has reached out to me directly with their willingness to partner and get that work done. So we are going to work on a plan through our current design team to come up with a reconfiguration, and then we'll work with the school to get that in the schedule. I'm told with the school's current workload, that won't be until the fall of this year, but it will be something they can get in before the end of this calendar year. So that would bring us to a point where the exterior modifications would be about 100% complete. As we know, the interior modifications require more funding, and there are several funding sources being applied for. We have grants, CPC funding, and then there's going to be some that will come up from another funding source. So with that said, if you have any questions, I'll take them, but if you want, I'll speak on the latter. Mr. Hull, through the board, has charged me with coming up with a number that is realistic, that would include more hands-on involvement by the town, similar to what we've done on other town projects. So the design team, the library building committee, and myself are working tirelessly to come up with a number that is accurate and tangible, and will look to save the taxpayers some money. So we should have that number to the board, and that will be presented by Granite City Partners at a future meeting. And I'm gonna say that'll probably be a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks the most.
Excellent. Well, thank you. You know, our goal is creating funding streams, finding the funding to get this project that has been in the making for over 25 years. Transparency is also very important. So when we know the dollar amount, we work to find the funds to make it happen. Mr. Pacheco, before I get into 26G, do you have any questions?
No, as you know, we recently had, some of us from that committee recently met, and we've talked about different options that the town may have. So we are trying to reduce the figure, but we also want to, as you said, a realistic figure. We want to be able to present to the residents what the actual cost is going to be. So I want to thank your effort and the building committee itself and town administrator, who's a member of the building committee, for the efforts that they're doing to try to realistically look at what it's going to cost the town and the options that we have as to how to pay it. So.
What is the next phase?
Would be the interior.
The entire
So-
interior, or?
Yeah, so when this project was originally discussed, I made it clear that we would not spend a dime on the interior until the exterior was weather tight. The exterior of that building was in very poor shape. So, we could spend a dime of taxpayer dollars until the outside was weather tight, and complete. So we're getting there. I will mention there is some broken glazing that we need to address, but currently those aren't letting any weather in, but they will be part of the project repairs. So we move to the interior. The biggest expense, single expense, is the HVAC systems. Currently, there's an antiquated oil-fired furnace in that building that absolutely burns through oil at an astonishing rate. That was subsided slightly by the weatherization upgrades that we did, but it's not an efficient way to heat that building. So we're looking at a more energy-efficient system, which today seems to be focused on heat pumps, which is the conversion of outside air, extracting the heat or the cooling from the outside air and then converting it through electricity into conditioned air for the interior of the building. It's a very efficient way to heat and cool a building, but they're expensive systems. So there's a cost to get to that
This might
point.
sound like a silly question. Was there any money left over from first phase?
We are not done yet, so I don't want to speak out of turn, but we may have a small amount of money, but very small. The change orders that we had have been legitimate. They were all unforeseen circumstances, and they've been very, very small. There was some additional work that we gave to the contractor, awarded contractor. That all went through the library building committee. That further bolstered the exterior weatherization of the building, and aesthetically, it works with the historic nature. So everything has been tastefully done, it's been responsibly done, and we're able to use the existing contractor that we have.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
One of the wonderful things that came out of the capital outlay meeting on Monday was a number in regards to furnishings, a number of $175,000. And there are ways to reduce that number, possibly during the discussion, using some of the old, some of the furniture that currently own. But also, that is the area that I mentioned at that meeting, and I will say this evening, and directing it to the Friends of the Library in particular, that we as a town should work together to create a capital fundraiser with the real expectation of raising that money. The Friends currently, and I believe it's in an account through the town, has $50,000 set aside from a previous capital drive that can be used towards those furnishings. So now you haven't even tried to raise money, and you've taken that 175 and you've knocked it down to 125, and it could be even lower with the furniture that we might be able to bring over from temporary facilities. So as that number gets lower and lower, the realistic ability to raise that funding by reaching out to the community, to reaching out to the businesses, is, I believe, very doable. You know, I watched a gentleman in Taunton raise $1.3 million to redo Hopewell Park and pool area. I saw what they did in North Dayton, raise $600,000 to do the St. Nicholas Hall. You know, we're talking between $100,000 to $125,000, reaching out to the business community. And Mr. Karen had mentioned a wonderful idea of doing the brick walkways, and that's something that I would ask that the Library Building Committee would consider in their architectural design of the outside.
That's a great idea. Yes.
26G. One of the questions that has gone through the community is fire suppression for the library. And what I'd like to do this evening is to talk about it from your perspective, understanding there's a slight caveat that you don't have the authority to rule on.
Right. So,
Could you explain what
to answer that question, we have to delve into code compliancy requirements. And I don't want to bore you with details, but I have to get into some of the details.
Sure.
So 26G was a general law that was promulgated by the legislature to deal with unfortunate loss of life in building fires. And it lowered the threshold of sprinkler requirements in buildings by lowering the square footage versus the building code. So the building code, for argument's sake, for that particular building with the use that we've determined it will be for, would be 12,000 square feet. But Mass General Law 26G reduces that to 7,500 square feet. So at first glance, you would say, well, that building needs to be sprinklered under 26G. However, there's a word in 26G that refers to substantial renovation or substantial alteration. Of course, when the legislator wrote general law, they didn't define either of those terms. So what the Department of Fire Services has done is piggybacked on the nomenclature in the building code, which does have definable terms for those two words. And what that says is, and I'll paraphrase because it's much more detailed, but basically, is your project completely renovating the building? If it's completely renovating the building, then 26G would apply. Naturally, the Department of Fire Services, specifically the fire chief, has jurisdiction, and that person solely makes the decision. But I can tell you, working with several fire departments, they piggyback on what the building code says, and has the building official, in this case me, the commissioner, determine that it's a substantial renovation or alteration. Well, fortunately for me, I don't have to guess. The building code specifically tells me what is and what is not. There are level 1, 2, and 3 renovations in the existing buildings code. This particular project, because we're not gutting the interior, we're not reconfiguring the space. In fact, quite the opposite. We're actually maintaining as much of the interior as possible. It's a level 1 renovation, which is the lowest level in the code. Level 3 being the highest would be walk into a building, it's completely gutted, you got to start from scratch, everything is going to be new. That would require full compliancy with the code. So in this particular case, on a level 1, it would not be required. Working with the fire department, the fire chief, obviously this isn't me making this decision. There's been collaboration between the fire chief and I. We're both in agreement. There wasn't a question as to whether or not 26G was applicable or not. It was not applicable. So therefore, the building does not have to be sprinklered.
Thank you.
Now, there's been discussion, and I've said this myself, that if the basement level was renovated, then we would have to sprinkler the building. Well, now the basement level is not going to be a level 1 renovation. The basement level is going to be completely configured. I say that, I don't know what the final use is, but my suspicion is all those small rooms downstairs probably won't work for a public or municipal use. So that we opening up the floor plan, changing the floor plan, altering the space, that would trigger the implementation of 26G and maybe some other building code requirements. But the basement level has never been part of the library occupancy. That has never been discussed. The main level of the building was always intended to be used for the library. The main level alone increases the size of the library almost fourfold, so there was never a need for the lower level. Granted, we will do something with it someday, but right now it's not part of this project.
Thank you. Now, looking at the future, possibility, if down the road they ever had the money and wanted to open up the lower level, would a fire suppression system still be possible without tearing the building apart to do that?
That's a great question. So the short answer is it would not be torn apart. It would be easily installed. I say that because the basement level is the most difficult to sprinkler. But if that is taken apart to reconfigure and do the renovations, everything is open and bare for you. The main level has an attic area that is fully accessible. It now has walkways in it, it's well lit, it's every aspect of that building can be easily worked in. So with that said, all of the sprinklers would be dropped through the existing ceiling from the attic without any interruption with the interior of the building. There are 2 areas that would require some interior work, and that would be the restroom, the existing handicap accessible restroom on the main level, and the plan shows an additional restroom that would be installed. It's actually not an additional, it's replacing a non-accessible bathroom. Those are the 2 areas that would require some interior work to be done, so there might be a slight disruption in interior services while that's going on, but we're not talking about closing the library for an extended period of time to put sprinklers in.
Right. No, thank you. And that wouldn't be in the near future.
Right. And the other thing I think it's worthy of saying, I know I've been in town for a long time. I think everyone knows I'm a lineal thinker. I would never condone a project that would go back in and tear up an occupied space to do something that we could have done now. So I would never support that or condone that. So the code doesn't require it. I'm not going to require it. The fire chief's not going to require it down the road. If it is required, I've already thought through the installation and make sure it isn't going to be something that's going to cost more money or be more disruptive to town services if we do it later.
Excellent. Mr. Pacheco, do you have any further questions?
No,
Mr.
I don't.
Aguirre?
No, thanks.
Mr. Garrett?
Okay.
Mr. Aguirre, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Just so everyone knows, I received a request from Mr. Karen a moment ago. And that request was to take the appointment of Alicia Wilson out of order. Attorney Alicia Wilson. The recommendation came from CPC to appoint Alicia to CPC. We had a resignation, and I'm looking to fill that position. First, I'll need a motion to take that out of order.
I'll make a motion that we take out of order on the new business 12E.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor, Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
Aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. I will also, at this time, entertain a motion to appoint Attorney Alicia Wilson to the CPC.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor, Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
Is an aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. Congratulations. Welcome
Congratulations.
aboard. Thank you. Thank you. Next on the agenda is Mr. Jonathan Gale, ADA Coordinator and member of the Commission on Disability.
Judith, I can walk up if you want.
Would you? Okay, thank you. Ms. Mullen, thank you.
I am an awful guy.
You're fired.
Yeah.
You wanted an update as to what we're doing with COD?
Yes,
So-
yes.
Okay, so,
Where you going and goals for the future?
so let me give you a rough idea of what we've done in the past year or so. As you know, for public purposes of what people see, we've been working on the AMA grant, which we got last year for a little over $150,000, and then the town added resource of in-kind work into that project. An example is the ramp that we have here, was done as part of that project. The walkway at Town Hall was done as part of that project. The walkways at all of the parks were done as part of that project. The new improved, I think vastly improved website that we have in the town, which is now fully accessible for people with all different types of disability, were part of that project. And there were other aspects of that project as well, which we were able to get completed. We were awarded the largest grant for the year from the Mass Office of Disability as well. And then they featured the work that we did in their annual report to the governor's office. So I think that bodes well for what the town has accomplished and what we've done. Some of the other things that we've been involved in the past year were sidewalk mitigation, School Street, making sure that the sidewalks were done correctly with the braille pads and so forth as well, placed properly. We've been involved in the Main Street project for the poles, to make sure that the poles are placed properly. And thank you to the Board of Selectmen for making us aware of that so that I could go out and make sure everything was done correctly, and in fact, it was reconfigured. And I think that represents a real positive for the town in terms of not just the sidewalks, but where the braille pads are again with mitigation so that it doesn't have to be redone. Maris Lane is another project we've been working on with regard to the sidewalk, so that once that project is completed, it's done correctly. There's been a number of other projects worked on. I know that many people go to the middle school and there's a ramp out front now, which allows persons with disability, not just kids, but adults or anybody who wants to have access to that building has full unencumbered access now. That also included in that project doing all of the other doors in the building, because all of the entrances in that building, none of the entrances actually, or exits, were fully accessible. The ground was crumbled in many cases, it had rotted away, the brick had come up. That's all been redone around that entire building, so that every single, even if there's an emergency, and adults or children have to, go out quickly, they have full access to go to any door now and to leave correctly. We have worked otherwise on other projects in town that involve transportation for people with disabilities, and looking at ways to bring more transportation for this community. It's for a lot of people with disability who have to go to medical appointments or other types of appointments, you can't get there from here. And the resources that are out there are limited right now because of cutbacks and because of driver shortages, and in some cases vehicle shortages for some of these companies. So in working with SERPID, we're trying to find ways to mitigate that and to offer more direct transportation services to the residents of our community who have disability when they have to get to medical appointments, or even just to go shopping to supermarket or to Target or wherever they might want to go. So hopefully that'll start to change in the next few months. Similarly, working on aspects of people with different types of disability having problems with alcoholism, opioid use, anything at all like that around substance abuse. These are projects that the state is coordinating with different towns, including ours, to bring more services and resources to people with disability. We've been identified as a town that has a higher percentage of people with a disability, actually, including a couple of towns right near us, who have potential use or overuse for substance abuse. So as a result of that, This project is going to bring new resources to the first responders, new educational resources to the town as well. It'll provide social services through clubhouse type of environments in this area for residents who have disability to go to. It'll be working through the group homes in town as well. And ultimately, that'll be coordinated probably in combination with the ADA coordinator and with the Board of Health once the project is fully implemented. It goes in phases, and this is a phase right now where we're looking at developing the outreach components. In terms of the schools, the ADA coordinator's position to some extent also looks at the plant of the schools. And when I say the plant, I mean the physical plant of the buildings. Are the water fountains at the right level, the lavatories, things like that. There are a lot of things that need to be done with the schools, I think, as we all know, and there are things that need to be addressed slowly. But yes, there are some things such as that need to be looked at. The schools need to, for example, have accessible lockers for kids with disability. That's something that needs to be addressed, and hopefully we'll get to that in the near future as well. So in terms of direct residents and having needs and asking for resources, I have received over the past year probably upwards of, I'd say about 125, close to 140 calls actually, from residents asking for different resources and services. In most every case, it's been redirecting people to a different source of where they need to go for their outreach. So if they need mass health services or transportation resources and services, things like that. Some of the referrals I've gotten from people calling the phone number. Some of it I've gotten from people reaching out to me directly by email. Some of it I've gotten referrals when they call other town departments, and then they send me an email, Jonathan, we have a call from so-and-so. Those things don't take 5 or 10 minutes sometimes, because you really have to get into the weeds with the resident or their family member to understand what the service is. Very often, we're the last resort of whom they call because they've been pushed around, shoved around, and very few people know about disability resources. They're constantly changing. But ultimately, I think we're letting residents know where they need to go for the services and the resources, things like that. Obviously, other things as well, the North Dayton Playground, which is now fully accessible for everyone and anyone. That's already become a huge success. Thankfully to the work that Kevin Smith Jr. has done as well as the Parks Commissioner. We've been able to make the other playgrounds more accessible. The goal this year is to make the area where the tennis courts and the pickleball area are even more accessible, with accessible parking and then more direct access. So that's another project that we're working on this year as well. I have spoken to Mr. Ferry as well about looking at other potential grants we can identify down the road for other areas in town where might be potential for either new or redoing sidewalk. In some cases, new sidewalk. I know his vision would be to have sidewalks in a lot of other parts of town, on some of the longer roads as well. So we've started talking about doing some of that also. I know that there are a lot of different projects in town that could be put on the agenda for needing some ADA constructive criticism, I'll put it that way, or a project that we could look at. I think we're just beginning to address those kinds of things. The commission separately has been in existence now for almost 2 years, and I think we finally really have our sea legs in terms of identifying the types of things that the ADA Commission wants to do, which are different from what the ADA coordinator does. And it's taken us time to separate those two types of things out. But I think the commission separately now is going to start reaching out in some other areas as well, and doing some service projects for the town and bringing kids in to help with service projects for the town. So I don't know if you have any questions?
Mr. Cameron, any questions?
No, thank you.
Mr. Pacheco?
I don't have any questions, but I have a comment. First of all, Mr. Gale, I want to thank you for all the things you've done for the town of Dayton to remove the barriers for people with disabilities. As some of you know, I had a mild stroke a few months ago, and we take for granted something like this ramp over here at the side of the stage over here. I know the first meeting I came to after I had the first meeting I came to in person, that I came, the Board of Selectmen's meeting, I appreciated that ramp. I have difficulty hopefully it's gonna improve, but with stairs, and that just, people think because you don't have a disability, they don't care about removing these barriers, but you never know when something like that's gonna happen to you. So I appreciate the work that you've done, Mr. Gale.
Thank you. I think what I would mention too is one of the projects that we're starting to look at, for example, is for meetings like this, for Zoom, for example, to be able to start to train the different committees and the commissions and the different department managers on how to provide Zoom that's fully accessible for people with disability, with closed caption, or in some cases, it may require a sign language interpreter if we do know somebody who's deaf who wants to participate, but that can also be done through Zoom. So that's just another part of the training process going down the road. And providing training for employees as well on disability resources for the employees and what's aware. And the town administrator and I have begun talking about ways that we can put together some training for town employees that really addresses their own direct needs as employees, and also educates the employees on understanding how to communicate and work with people with different types of disability. So from my perspective, we've only been at this for a couple of years. We've accomplished an enormous amount in a couple of years. People can see it virtually everywhere they drive in town, one way or another. Those are the visual, obvious sides of it, and we're just beginning to address the parts that get done behind the scenes that people don't see. And I think that'll lead to a lot of other projects and potentially some capital projects down the road too. So,
Mr. Gale, one of the things, and listen to you speak about COD and the ADA coordinator's position, that I would like to see, if at all possible, is that working together with COD, if you could come up with a list of goals that you would like to accomplish over the course of this year, so that it will bring to our attention the needs and what things are going to be taken care of on the list from the KMA report of ADA issues in the town. So we know what the problems are, how much it's going to cost to fix it, and the priorities. Not the whole KMA list, but what you, COD, feel is realistic that can be done in the course of a year.
I think we can do that. I think there's a difference between what the responsibility of the commission is versus the responsibility of the coordinator. And the coordinator, to some extent, to what you're referring to, the coordinator is really directed by the town administrator, the Board of Selectmen, and the ADA Commission. So we can, as the commission can make recommendations for what you're looking at and you're asking for. But I think to give you the actual final list, that will be something that I would need to sit down and work on with the town administrator, which I'm sure we will, so that we can really give you a clean list, if you will, of goals and objectives of things we can work on from the KMA report.
One of the things that I found with Solid Waste Committee, and that came about because of a lack of resources and a lot of needs. 22 pages of mandates from the state, and how we're going to address it with the limited financial resources that we had. We certainly couldn't pay anyone to address all those issues. So we formed a volunteer committee. Excellent committee, they're working really hard. I see COD in a similar situation because of limited resources and limited amount of time for you to do everything that needs to get done yourself, is if COD could work more closely with you, if nothing more in grant writing and in planning. That, I think, would make both yourself and COD more productive and make that KMA list disappear a lot quicker than...
And I don't disagree with you. I think it would be helpful for the COD to be more involved in that process. One of the things that we do need on the COD is a couple of new members. We have a couple of vacant spots. And I think if we had a couple of more members on the COD, that would also make the work that we want to do much easier, because
So
we'd have more.
I'm sorry, so you have some vacancies?
Yes.
Could
we
we
have-
post those? And try to make a push through the media to try to fill those positions? That'd be great.
Yes.
Yep. And we do, we constantly announce it, and at our meetings as well, we're looking for a couple of folks. This is, the Commission on Disability tends to be one of those kinds of commissions where, and this is common across the Commonwealth, unless the person who's on it has a vested interest in disability or is disabled themselves, very often people do not volunteer. And that's unfortunate, but that's just the nature of that type of commission.
So anyone who is interested should submit a request, letter of intent, to Ms. Karen Brady in the Board of Selectmen office. And your application will be reviewed by COD, and there will be an interview. And if they feel comfortable with, they will forward to us a recommendation for our vote.
The volunteer application is online, they can fill it out, and it will go directly to this Board of Selectmen's office, and then they will forward it to me.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Gale.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No?
No,
Thanks, John.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll try this again.
Next on the agenda are the announcements.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Announcements. Please note that the town-wide parking ban is still in effect through April 1st, 2023. No person shall park a motor vehicle on any street between the hours of 12 midnight and 6 a.m. on any street. The Dayton Rehoboth Regional High School Theater Company presents the musical Head Over Heels on Thursday, March 23rd, 6:30, Friday, March 24th at 6:30, and Saturday, March 25th at 1 p.m. All shows will take place at the high school auditorium. The Friends of the Dayton Library will be holding their annual Meet the Candidates Night for candidates running in the upcoming annual town election. This event will take place on Monday, March 27, 2023, 7 p.m. at Dayton Middle School. The Dayton Historical Society, and as noted many times, I'm a member of the Dayton Historical Society, is sponsoring a program called Believe in Forever with Mary Catherine Volk on Sunday, March 26, 2023 at Old Town Hall in this building at 1111 Somerset Avenue at 2 p.m. Absentee ballot applications are available at Old Town Hall. Absentee applications are available for the Saturday, April 8th, 2023 annual town election. Absentee ballots are available in person at the town clerk's office, not in this building, the town hall, on the Secretary of State's website and the Town of Dayton's website. Use the search bar and type absentee voter application. The Town of Dayton Food Bank distribution will be held next on April 15, 2023, located at Town Hall, 979 Somerset Avenue, lower level. The Board of Selectmen is seeking applications for Dayton residents interested in filling the position of Sewer Commissioner for the rest of the current term through April 2025. Residents are encouraged to apply through the town's website by Thursday, March 23, 2023. And just a note on the absentee ballots, it's my understanding the town clerk will be available Friday, April 7th until noon. I believe it's noon, could be 11:30.
I believe it's around noon, but we'll confirm and get that information out there.
So if anybody wants to come in and get an absentee ballot and vote, they can do it the day before the annual town election, which is April 8th. That's it on announcements.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is Selectmen's report. I have been scheduled to go first, and we'll talk about the water district as well as the school committee. The Dayton Water District had a meeting at 7 a.m. on Friday, March 17th. An update, they are still looking for a water superintendent. Currently, Greg Olson is filling in. And they are still accepting applications if anyone is interested in serving in that position. The annual election of the Dayton Water District Board of Commissioners will be May 15th from noon to 7 p.m. at their headquarters on William Street. They will also be having their annual Water District Town Meeting on May 25th, 2023, at 7 p.m. at the Dayton Middle School, and that meeting is open to people who live within the Dayton Water District. In regards to the school committee meeting, I was not able to attend the meeting last night due to FinCom meeting. However, at the previous meeting, they had an increase of $3.2 million in expenses this past year. And some of those increases were in salaries of $1.2 million and in out-of-district transportation, which was an increase in $310,000. And that is significant for a couple reasons. One, at the last MMA conference, the MMA voted to ask the governor to increase the allocation to out-of-district transportation reimbursement, $30 million more. So across the state, there's a recognized need. And unfortunately, to this date, the legislature has not done that. So we suffer the consequences. And a staggering number, which we're going to address in more detail when the DR School District comes before the Board of Selectmen. And I was confused on the number. And as I review my notes, it says $1 million energy increase. We met with Bristol Plymouth and Bristol Aggie last night, and their increases were nowhere near that number. And I'm going to say this publicly, so there'll be no surprises when the school department comes before us, that there is going to be great scrutiny of their energy needs. When I hear Bristol Aggie say that their 8-building campus had an increase of $100,000, and BP, with all the shops that they have, was about, I believe he said $84,000. I got some serious questions about the energy increases at the Dayton-Rehoboth Regional School District. The budget, and I'm not sure if they made any significant cuts last night, overall is $49,985,506. Those cuts included 6 staff and nursing assistants. So the increase to Dayton is $427,397. And Mr. Mullen, I don't have the schedule in front of me, but when will the school department be coming before us?
DR is actually first on the agenda for the joint budget meeting tomorrow evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions in regards to school committee or the water district reports? No. No, thank you. Mr. Karen, solid waste.
Yes, we met, and you're looking at your new chairman. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad
Oh,
thing.
congratulations.
No, they're not in order. Only because nobody else wanted to do it, I think. But we had an update on the point of sale, which is going to be able to, I don't know, when's it coming into effect? We figure June maybe of this year?
We hope to have it up and running sooner.
Sooner,
And
but-
next meeting is on April 3rd, so we hope
Right.
to have more of an implementation plan
Yep.
there.
And it's going to be able to identify what people are dropping off, what expenses they're paying, which are all done by hand right now, so it's going to really stream up our system. We, obviously, we lost Jonathan Lawrence. I think that we read his letter last meeting, and he's being replaced right now by town employees from the Department of Works, the Highway Department. And that will only be temporary until we find somebody who's going to work the 2 days a week that we have hours.
Question,
Yes,
were they going to privatize that, or were they gonna use town employee
the town employee would be hired,
for,
the transfer station for
Transfer.
Saturday and Tuesday. We talked about possibly making it Friday and Saturday instead, so we could,
Possibly, yes.
have one work week and one weekend day tied up for somebody to make it more attractive to work. That's really about it.
okay, no, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. And congratulations,
Yes.
Chairman Karen. Next on the agenda, Town Administrator Report.
Yeah, you did skip over Selectman Pacheco, did he?
No, I
Oh.
indicated to the
Oh,
chairman.
I'm
I had
sorry,
no
I didn't want to
reports.
leave you out,
No,
okay.
that's okay.
So, I just have a few quick things. The first item, the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, Alec, as you may know, they have a grant program every year, that actually begins in January. It runs all the way through June. The first part of that grant opportunity is an expression of interest, phase, where the EOHED, as the agency is calls it, leverages, and it actually has pulled together all economic development and housing and infrastructure grants all in one portal. And so as part of that, and as part of our work through the economic development plan that we have ongoing with SERPED as well, we did express, we did submit an expression of interest, which is just really the first phase at this point, with the final grant due at the beginning of June. But we express interest in actually two priority projects. Number one is a townwide zoning assessment that is actually based on what on one of what we expect from SERPED will be one of the first major recommendations of the economic development plan. And so in the timing of that, I would actually dovetail really nicely with what we're expected to get with economic development plan recommendations in early to mid fall. And so that is the first priority that we identified based on the recommendation from the DDIC, which has been carrying out the economic development plan. And the second priority is the creation and the update of a housing production plan as well. We are currently out of date with our housing production plan, and with the implementation of the MBTA community priority, actually law and requirement as well. Having and seeking assistance through the one-stop portal to be able to engage SERPED, and working with us again to create an updated housing production plan to meet the state requirements and to meet the requirements that we anticipate are coming to us as part of the MBTA community requirement. So I just wanted to bring to the board's attention that those have been the priorities that we have made the OHED like aware of our interest in at this point. So if there's any questions or
Oh, I do, but, Mr. Pacheco?
Just on the housing production plan,
yes,
you said we're out of date.
the
It's good for 5 years, and did we do the last one in 2018, maybe?
well, yeah, there ended up being a pretty significant snafu with the submission there, and so that affected the timeliness of that.
Mr. Karen?
No, I'm all set, thank you. You did a good
Mis-
job.
Mr. Mullen?
Yes, sir.
Front page headlines in Boston Herald this week was the Attorney General threatening communities that did not submit their MBTA impact zone plan to the state. Have you received any deadlines as to when we have to submit an economic and housing impact plan to them?
Well, I just want to clarify, we're not an MBTA designated community at this point because the South Coast Rail is not up and active.
Oh, okay.
The tolling for that requirement or when we expect, in order for that to happen, which based on what has happened, we do anticipate, based on following that logic. But in order for that to happen, actually two things need to happen. Number one, the South Coast Rail will need to go live. And also the statute, once the South Coast Rail goes live, will actually need to be updated again to actually include the communities based on the perimeters that already exist, but the statute specifically will need to be updated, which based on how things have evolved as of late, we do expect. So if we're approaching a housing production planning effort anyways, we will look to try to really structure that planning effort so when at a point when we do expect that to come into view or to come into a requirement, we can easily adapt to that requirement.
Because watching what's going on in Fall River and their work at that MBTA terminal, they're going like gangbusters. And they're starting to lay track. They're finishing up the buildings. It's coming fast.
It's moving and it's almost here.
But it's good to hear that we still have some time.
Yes. And just the other update, two quick updates I want to mention. As you know, as we mentioned, we began our budget review process with the FinCom last night. Under my website page on the website, but also under the Town of Dayton homepage at the bottom, there's a link for budget and finance. So all the presentations and we'll be updating that budget and finance page accordingly as we go. So to have all of our budget information out there and transparent as we move forward from now to the June 5th town meeting. So I just wanted to share that as well. And actually, late breaking news, we did actually hear earlier this afternoon from Congressman Archibald's office, and his office did reach out. They are actually having, the congressman is having a town hall in Dayton on Saturday, April 1st, from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. at Bristol Aggie. And so I just wanted to share that with everyone. We'll be getting that information up and out, just to share with any interested Dayton resident who wanted to attend. But I just wanted to, share that as the board knows the board was invited as well. And I just wanted to get that out to the public as well.
No, I'm Mr. Pacheco, any questions, Mr. Karen?
Nope.
I'm really looking forward to it. Jake Auchincloss has been a huge help to the town of Dayton. That $2.75 million for the Pleasant Street Muddy Cove Brook Bridge project is huge. And getting that accomplished in a budget bill before the Congress of over $1 trillion, and that Jake was able to make Dayton a priority is significant. Thank you. Old business, capital outlay committee update.
Yeah, this is just a really quick update. The capital outlay committee, I lost track of days. Met on Monday,
Monday.
right? Okay, it's been a week. Capital outlay committee met on Monday. The committee had its first look at the updated FY24 capital requests that our actually submitted earlier in the fiscal year, and how they join together with what is already on our 5-year capital plan as well. So the capital outlay committee will be meeting next on Tuesday, April 4th, and as we plan forward for town meeting, and the warrant process as well. So that process is actively underway too.
Thank you. Mr. Pacheco, you serve on that committee. Do you have anything further to add?
No, I want to add that I can't attend that meeting on April 4th. I have physical rehab that day, so I won't be able, that morning, I won't be able to attend.
Mr. Karen, any questions? No, sir. Next on the agenda, review and discuss an act facilities use request from Father's House Family Church. They're asking to use the Old Town Hall weekly beginning Sunday, January 29th, 2023, and they're asking for it to be continued. Mr. Mullen, I don't see in this application how long will they need?
What's the July date, I
Through
thought?
the end of July 31st, Mr. Chairman.
July 31st. Are
Yes,
there
I think
any-
they have been using Old Town Hall for, I want to say, the past 7 weeks now. Things have been going great, as we expected, hoped, and anticipated. They've been paying the weekly fee as well. We haven't had any problems at the beginning of the week, and yes, so we very strongly recommend extending the reservation request until July 31st.
Now, I noticed in the application, it said we would like to request a waiver of the fee. And you mentioned a moment ago that they were paying the weekly fee.
Yes.
So I was curious about that.
It was when we.
That was during the winter months, so do we want to continue that?
I've heard no complaints, but any of the times that they've been here, they've kept the place clean. They've kept it, they put chairs back if they've used any chairs. I was the one that had encouraged them to pay a weekly fee, but at this point, since we're not gonna be paying for heat, hopefully, I would support waiving the fee.
Did you put that in the form of a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the Father's House Family Church, that they be allowed to use this facility July 31st, was that July 31st?
Yeah, July 31st of 23.
2023, and that the fee be waived.
Fee be waived starting when?
Uh,
March 26th?
Yeah, the Sunday.
This Sunday?
It will be this Sunday because this is the first time that they would be using it as part of the extension.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Motion made in second. All those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
It's an aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. I might also add, for those of you who don't know, that the Father's House Family Church worked very closely with us to provide us the wonderful building that is now going to be our library. So we're very thankful for their being a part of this town. Next on the agenda is the request by the Dayton Lions Club to have their annual yard sale at the Highway Garage. Are there any questions about this request? For the past few years, the Dayton Lions Club has held its annual yard sale fundraiser in the parking lot of the town highway garage. This year, the Lions are applying for a permit to hold the fundraiser on May 6th at this location once again. I see on your property rental policy that the highway garage is listed only for car washes. And on the fee schedule, no fee is listed for use of the garage's parking lot area. The Lions Club is requesting that if there is a fee associated with the rental of this location, the fee be waived. It's my understanding there is no fee. Is that correct, Mr. Mullen?
Yes, yes.
So we don't need to vote on that. But what we do need is a vote to allow the Lions Club to use Dayton Highway Garage parking lot on May 6th.
I cannot make the motion. I'm a member of the Lions Club.
I'll make that motion.
I will step down and second that motion. All those in favor? Mr. Karen?
And I,
Chairman Hull is an aye.
I abstain.
And for the record, Mr. Pacheco is abstaining. Next on the agenda, review and discuss an act request to appoint Diane Heath as special agent for the tobacco enforcement. I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor, Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
And I,
Chairman Hull is an aye. Next on the agenda, review and discuss an act to appoint Fananya Solomon as a special agent for tobacco enforcement.
I'll make that motion.
second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
And I,
Chairman Hull is an aye. And just to clarify, these appointments are recommendations from the Board of Health. We've already taken Ms. Wilson's appointment. Next on the agenda, based on the recommendation of the CPC, they are requesting to appoint Bran Sendrin as an at-large member of the Community Preservation Committee. I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor, Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
Aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. Mr. Sendrin, congratulations. And I just want to remind both of you, if you haven't already done so, please see Mr. Mark Pacheco to be sworn in.
Well, we couldn't see him before you did.
Technically, you can't vote officially on any matter until you've been sworn in, so that's really important these days. Next on the agenda, review, discuss, and act, common victual license for Jesse's Diner, 2035 Winthrop Street, North Dayton. Are there any questions?
Jesse's Diner is.
Yeah, we do have Jesse's Diner with us on Zoom as well.
Yes. Good evening.
Hello.
We have your application before us. We do have a couple questions to ask. I did receive a phone call from an abutter, just to make you aware. And Bill Mariano wanted to give his blessings to this request and feels that the diner would be a wonderful addition to the Winthrop Street area. Do you have any questions for us?
No.
Mr. Pacheco, do you have any questions?
I do have one question. On your breakfast menu, will you have a Portuguese omelet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Mr. Karen?
This is Nana's place, right?
Yep. Yes.
Yes, used to be.
Used to be. No, good luck with it, guys.
Yep.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have one question for Mr. Mullen,
Yes,
and
sir.
it's a formal question that we ask all applicants. Currently, does Jesse's Diner owe any fees, back taxes to the town of Dayton?
They do not. They are all current, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve the common victual license for Jesse's Diner, 2035 Winthrop Street, North Dayton.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
It's an aye.
Chairman Hull is also an aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Next on the agenda is public input. Before I'd just like to go over a few things in regards to public input. One, public input will be up to 5 minutes in length of time. We ask that you show respect for the people who serve this town, and that if you have a concern about the performance of an employee, you place your concerns in writing with the Human Resource Department and the Board of Selectmen office, and that's either Mrs. Brady or Mr. Mullen. By statute, public employees, different than public officials, have certain contractual rights, and criticism of employees is protected and usually is held in executive session, unless it is waived. Elected officials, however, we don't fall under that. And a recent Supreme Court decision supports that. Also, any town employee that has town business that they want to address before us, please see Mr. Mullen to be placed on the agenda. And we've had a couple people come on tonight, such as Mr. Aguirre and Mr. Gale. With that being said, does anyone have anything for the common good for this evening? Mrs. Goulart, for the record, could you state your name and address?
Nancy Goulart, 631 Gray Terrace. I'm here tonight as the chairman of the Stormwater Committee, and to offer, to ask you about a potential presentation. Mr. Mullen and I and Tom Ferry are working with Weston and Sampson on some stormwater information because we are going to have to do some updating of some of our regs because of a new edict from the EPA. In the course of following up with that, I got in touch with Newton Tedder at the EPA. And he gave me some advice and information and told me what to look at. And during the course of that, he said if we need any help at all, he's willing to attend a meeting, Zoom in, whatever. I thought of asking you, the board, since you had said you would like a stormwater presentation.
Yes, absolutely.
Down the road, sometime after, I think after budget. If you're interested, like we did with Jim Howland, I think we can get Newton Tedder to Zoom in. And he's the chief permit writer for the whole New England area
He's a
at
good
the
guy.
EPA. He's like the second in command, and he's the person I deal with for NOI, Notice of Intent, and MS4s. But anyhow, just a thought, you don't have to make a decision tonight, but you want to know about stormwater? This guy will be as good as Jim Howland was about the housing program. So I just wanted to offer that to you, and you can let me know, because I wrote back to him and said I was going to forward the information to the lady at Weston and Sampson that Mr. Mullen and Tom and I are working with. some suggestions he made relative to changes in EPA rules. But I told him I was going to mention this and let him know if this is a potential thing, so down the road it can be planned. But he said he would be willing to attend or do a Zoom. So just something to think about, and I think it would be worth doing. The last time Newton Tedder was down in this area that I'm aware of was a meeting in Fall River. You remember that? He was there years ago. You know, we talked before COVID and after COVID, well before COVID. And he is, I think you would learn a lot, but he would be good, okay? So you can let me know about that. We can get back to him.
Mrs. Goulart,
Yes.
you have helped to make stormwater program in the town of Dayton one of the most respected programs in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Thank you.
As soon as we get through the budget process, you know where the agenda sign-up is. Let Mr. Mullen know, and you pick the day.
Okay.
You're more than welcome to come.
Thank you, thank you.
It's really
But I gotta tell you, it's through the assistance from Newton Tedder and Thelma Murphy, who is in charge. She's the first person. I didn't know who she was when I reached out to her and said, I don't know anything about stormwater, but I don't want us to get fined again. And she did everything she could and gave me the right information, and I got assistance from Weston and Sampson, all free. Engineering information that would have cost thousands and thousands of dollars. So thank you very much. I mean, our committee has done a great job. They continue to do a great job. And when he said, if you need anything, let me know, I thought, ooh, there's an offer I got to pass on.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Next, approval of the warrants.
Use these dates? Okay. I'll ask the Board of Selectmen to approve the following warrants. Warrants dated March 16th, 2023, 37A23, $109,247.36, and 37B23, $210,357.49.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Motion made in second to approve the warrant dated March 15th, 2023. All those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
Aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye.
I'll ask the Board to approve the following warrants dated March 23rd, 2023. 38A23, $112,291.23. 38B23, $231,485.90. And 38C23, $75.45.
Second.
Before we take a vote, did you say March 23rd or
That's
March?
what I said, yep.
We're approving it.
Yeah, no, like actually approving it in advance of it being posted rather than on the same day. So in the future, we'll be updating the dates to actually the day after the selectmen meeting, so the board is approving it before they're posted.
Okay. With that being said, all those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
Aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. Acknowledgements. Next on the agenda, correspondence. Chief Christopher McGee recommends the appointment of Sarah Silvera to the call firefighter EMS ranks. Now, I have a question. We have a strong chief rule in Dayton. As a result, this is just correspondence. We're not voting for the appointment. Is that
Precisely,
correct?
yes.
Mr. McGee is written, I am writing this letter to inform you that effective April 1st, 2023, I will be appointing one new member to the call firefighter EMS ranks. This is Sarah Silvera, and we would like to join Chief McGee in welcoming Sarah to this department and wishing her the best of luck. Also, the chief is recommending the appointment of Reuben Jacob to the call firefighter EMS ranks. Mr. McGee writes, I am writing this letter to inform you that effective on April 1st, 2023, I will be appointing one new member to the call firefighter EMS ranks, Mr. Ruben Jacob. Please join us in welcoming Ruben to this department, and we wish him the best of luck in serving the people of the town of Dayton. Next on the agenda is the resignation of William Pruitt from the Historic Commission and the Dayton Community Preservation Committee. From Mr. Pruitt, dated March 14th, 2023. Effective immediately, I am resigning from the Dayton Historic Commission and the Dayton Community Preservation Committee. Sincerely, William R. Pruitt. I will entertain a motion to accept the resignation of William Pruitt with sincere thanks and appreciation.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
Aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. Now, I just want to clarify something in regards to this position. Mr. Pruitt served as the representative of the Dayton Historic Commission on the Dayton Community Preservation Committee.
Yes.
So we are going to need to post the Dayton Historic Commission position, not
Yes.
both. And then the Dayton Historic Commission will decide which one of their members will serve on the CPC.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Yes, and they're going to vote on it at the next meeting as to who's going to represent the CBC from the Historic Commission.
Now,
They've had that conversation already.
since, Mr. Pacheco, you are on the Dayton Historic Commission, could you give us a posting date and closing date so we can, for the commission? You have a vacancy, so you're gonna need.
Yeah, but we don't normally post, we should acknowledge that we have an opening, but we don't normally post a sign-up date or a date you have to send your application in by. We don't do that for any committee. But the Historic Commission will be voting for one of their members to be a representative on CPC.
So
There's already somebody interested.
from to go to
Historic
CPC.
Commission, yes.
Yes, but regarding the vacancy on the Dayton Historic Commission, we would strongly encourage anyone who has an interest in history or historic sections of the town, like the North Dayton Village, which there's going to be serious work in creating a plan
They have a survey going on now for the North Dayton Historic District.
to create a historic district in that area. So it's not a committee where you won't be doing anything. They have a couple projects in a pipeline that they're working on, and they could definitely use your help. If you're interested, please submit a letter of interest to Ms. Karen Brady at the Board of Selectmen's office, and we'll pass it on to Historic Commission and hopefully get someone on board real soon. Thank you. With that being said, I will entertain a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen Finance Committee special meeting minutes of February 2nd, 2023. If all of you have had the opportunity to review them.
I have. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
Aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. Also, if everyone is in agreement, has reviewed the minutes of March 8th, I will entertain a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes of March 8th, 2023.
Ms. Karen Brady, I meant to bring this to your attention. There's one typo in the minutes. Instead of, it says hostile fee, it should be hostile free.
Okay.
That's the only, I meant to tell you before the meeting, I'm sorry about that. I'll make that motion to approve the minutes with that
As amended.
amendment.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
Aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. We will be going into executive session, and we will not be returning. In order, under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, A, the fire chief, and B, the ADA coordinator. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements. We'll also be approving the Board of Selectmen executive session meeting minutes of March 8th, 2023. I'll entertain a motion to enter an executive session.
Make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
Aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.